Are you looking for help with your rest and recovery, wanting to optimize your sleep and prime performance? Well, New Calm is built on neuroscience, and it's been used by special operators, SportTAC, pro sports teams, and many, many more for years. To learn more and access the best deals of the year, go to newcalm.co/grit. That's Newcalm, NUCALM.co/grit. Law enforcement and government agencies struggle with parking citations, often because no one will pay them. Boots or other devices are costly, and they invite confrontation when implied and later removed by enforcing employees. With Tire Tag, you can avoid many hurdles and ultimately promote public safety and revenue collection. To learn more, visit tiretag.com. For a thorough conversation on how Tire Tag can help your agency and revenue collection, visit episode 204. That's 204. The views and opinions expressed by the host and guests of this show do not represent their employing agency, department, or organization. All information should be regarded as anecdotal, contextual, and educational, and should not be misinterpreted as legal or medical advice. Welcome to Blue Grit Radio, the podcast that explores making better cops for a better community. I'm your host, Eric Tung. I've been an active police officer since 2007. We will dive into the aspects of police culture, health and wellness, leadership, and mindset. You'll hear from experts not only from policing, but all industries as they relate to being our best with purpose, passion, and positivity. Join me as we share stories, lessons, and advice so we can all be better for ourselves, our teams, our families, and our communities. Welcome back, everyone. We often talk about leadership, and if you've been listening for a while, you know that I truly believe in leadership at all ranks. It doesn't have anything to do really with your rank and role, except for the fact that there should be an expectation or responsibility the higher up you go to carry that with great care and ownership. However, I also talk about, and a lot of guests join me in talking about the critical nature of first line supervisors. So your most iconic for those in the police world are going to be your sergeants. And so I'm super excited to share a panel of guests today. They're all sergeants. And not only are they all sergeants, but they are sergeants that were nominated by someone else, which is really the mark of a valid leader to me. It's when someone else says, yeah, that's a leader, not, hey, look at me, I'm a leader. So a lot of these dudes, I know a lot about some and I know less about others, but I'm super excited to learn more and welcome the three gentlemen that we have today. So why don't we kick it off with Dave? So we have Dave and David and Brian, but we'll start with Dave. If you could give us a little bit of an intro. Thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. I'm Dave Lind. I'm a sergeant for the City of Auburn Police Department. I've worked for Auburn for about 18 years now, and I've hit a lot of the different roles. I worked patrol for 7 years. I was a property crimes detective. I was a major crimes detective. I got certified as a bike cop at one point that never really rode around much.
Pimba, did you get the full meal deal?
I did. Yeah, I went up to Seattle and rode all over the place.
Ooh,
and then kind of at the end of my patrol career, I got onto the Valley SWAT team, and I've been on the Valley SWAT team for the last 11 years and gone through all of the specialties and stuff there, explosive breacher, assistant team leader. Now I'm a team leader for the team. And then in 2020, I was promoted to sergeant, did a couple of years as a patrol sergeant, and then was moved over to our special investigations unit for the last 2 years. And then recently I was moved over to our general investigations unit. And that's where I currently am. So I'm a sergeant for general investigations and I'm a team leader for the Valley SWAT team.
Nice, man. Yeah, it's been good to know you from a distance and sometimes rubbing shoulders on different calls through the years, being in the region. And yeah, shout out to the full-time bike cops out there, especially a place like Seattle where there's those hills and parking garages and all that. Like,
I had 23 degrees out there.
Yeah, I had a rough time one day at the end of like my bike training week because I definitely was not hydrated and I was trying to go low carb at the time, and I had the worst like quad cramps. I almost fell off my bike if not for another dude. There's that peer support in another way. So
absolutely.
Right on. Thanks, Dave. All right, we're going to go to David now.
Hey, how's everybody doing? David Struwin, 31 years law enforcement. I did my first 24 in the Chicago suburbs before retiring back in 2019. Moved down to Louisiana, took a job at LSU, worked on campus for 6 years as a patrol sergeant. After my first year, I got promoted up. my time in Illinois, I was predominantly I was a patrolman. I never promoted when I was in Illinois for a wide variety of reasons. No need to get into it. But during my time up there, I was, in addition to patrol, I spent about 10 years in our traffic unit. So I was a motor cop. I was a crash reconstructionist, commercial motor vehicle enforcement officer, which ties into my current role. So last fall, I left LSU after 30 years patrol work and shift work. I had my fill of it and took a job as the training coordinator for a new state agency here in Louisiana, DOT. So DOTD, Department of Transportation and Development, we are the truck enforcement guys. So this is kind of where I'm at, but I'm in the training side of things and just shifted roles in January, just earlier this month, to long-term professional development. So that's more of gonna be my main focus moving forward for however much longer I've got in this wonderful career I've got.
Yeah, I love that. Training sergeant, that is a heavy hat, not just with the sign duties, but also organizational, like, I think, recognition of how much that job can be and should be. So thanks for that, David. All right, over to Brian.
Hey, good morning, gentlemen. First of all, Brian Frankenberger, I'm with Kirkland Police. Been a cop coming up on 16 years. Real quick, I wanted to give a shout out and a thank you to Eric and to my officer Adam, who were actually nominated for this. It's very honoring. I'm honored to be on here. I think it's fantastic to read what Adam wrote and to know that I've reached some guys. That's fun to hear. I'm going to back up a little bit on mine. My story goes way back to before I was even a cop. So my biggest accomplishment is I surprisingly had my oldest son when I was 16, 17
Oh, wow.
in high school.
Nice.
Grinded, finished high school, and then joined the Army in October 2001, immediately following 9/11. For two reasons. One, I had no money for college because I was a teenage parent, and two, because of 9/11. Did that for 9 years, was in Iraq many years in 03 through 07, got out and then started testing to become a cop. Since being a police officer, much like Dave, I was patrol for several years. I've worn a ton of hats. I was a patrol officer. I was a general detective for several years, patrol corporal for about 18 months, patrol sergeant for a handful of years, canine sergeant. I've run our EVOC cadre, currently our firearms cadre head. I've been our guild president for the last 7 years, which definitely helps in building that credibility with my guys. And then I'm currently running our plainclothes investigations unit, which has been a ton of fun.
Nice. Well, thank you all. And Brian, when I say nice, like, it's not like, well, teen pregnancy, but it's like for you to say, my proudest achievement, I think that's pretty fantastic. And I have people close to me, that are, their parents were extremely young, right, in high school, and to see what goes in, or to learn what goes into that to make it work and come out well, it's beating statistics in a way. And I think that's kind of what we're talking about here a lot on the show, is like how this job, man, too often we hear this, how much the job took from me. And I don't like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I know that all of you are not of that mindset. So it's so giving if you let it be and you contribute back into it in a positive way. So I appreciate that. And for the listeners, I did ask everyone to share some of the scope. And I know y'all could probably go quite a bit more in the weeds of the different roles, but it is really to give the context of how much experience you all are bringing into this, because with different assignments come different challenges and all of that. So I just kind of want to open it up, first off, just talking about the crucial nature of first line leadership. I don't think that there's a whole lot of argument, and I've heard it said many, many times in many ways, how paramount the role of a first line is, like how important the sergeant is in the entirety of the organization. I kind of want to get some of your guys' thoughts about that in general, either from things that you've seen through your career or wearing the hat and the stripes now for some time. So who'd like to kick it off?
I'll jump in regards to that, because over the course of my career, I've seen the good and the bad, right? And I think we can all say that. We've seen good supervisors, we've seen bad supervisors. And like I said, I never promoted for 21 years. It took me my 25th year of doing this before I actually decided to throw my hat in the ring and start being part of the solution of it. For me, a good sergeant, you're the glue. You're the glue of the shift. You're the glue of the organization. And conversely, a bad supervisor, a bad sergeant is the destroyer. They're the ones that are out for themselves. They're the ones that are out there promoting themselves. They're all about their their next rank, their next promotion, and everyone else, just fall in line and do as I say, not as I do. So there's no servant leadership. There's no connectivity, right? So, and for me, I went into my role is being a new patrol sergeant at LSU for a wide variety of reasons. My biggest one was I wanted to see what it was like and take all the leadership experience that I had for the previous 20 years. 'Cause I did a lot of leadership based things away from work. I would never give my old agency the satisfaction of promoting within that organization.
Mm.
So when I got to LSU, I came down with a fresh slate and I was like, okay, let's see how good you can be. Are you capable of doing this? Are you capable of taking your skills and everything you've developed over the last 20 years in a wide variety of different atmospheres and apply it to your profession? And, knock on wood, the answer to that is a resounding yes, because, you know, and Brian, I'll echo your sentiment earlier. A huge shout out and thank you to the guy who recruited me away from LSU, and that's my chief, Jeff Melchior. And if it wasn't for Jeff Melchior and my lieutenant Charles Badgeron, recruiting me to come work with them, I'd still be at LSU, just kind of going, okay, going through the motions. But now I've got an opportunity to be a brand new organization that really gets it. And because we're new, we don't have to fight the decades of it's always been done that way mentality. We don't have to fight the bad culture. We get to build the culture from scratch, and we get to select who we allow into our inner circle. And that's kind of the important aspect from the leadership role as a frontline supervisor, for me at least, is, you know, providing that mentorship, the developer, the leader, the trainer, all of those things are all the hats that we wear as a sergeant. I don't know if that resonates with you guys as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. You said a lot right there. And a couple of things I made notes are like part of the solution. And I've heard a lot of people say that, and that resonates with me for sure, because we can stand by and watch the promotional processes happen, but when a lot of times you hear people complaining about what leadership is, and sometimes and I didn't invent this idea, but I heard this concept of if we in leadership are complaining about leadership, like what are we doing, right? And so I shared that with some of my sergeants when I was a newer commander, and they got it immediately. Like they're like, yeah, like who am I to say our leadership sucks or our leadership is empty? Like you're a sergeant, you're part of it. And I think that we could even expand that down the chain, because like you said, you are the glue. And I think I've been working on this concept in an article and I'm pitching it back and forth with my editor at Police One, and I'm trying to like nail it, but it's this idea of like the glue aren't necessarily like your first lines, right? They are the people that they hold everything together. They when they're around, things get better. When they're not around, things just get clunky. And it's like that almost intangible quality. Like, how do we recognize that? And so when you said it, I think that your great sergeants are absolutely that. They're more like cement than glue. So in a lot of ways, I kind of want to talk about that. Maybe I'll pitch it over to Dave, because we've had a few Valley SWAT members through the years here on the podcast, and when I think about glue, I think about teams like that. Do you want to kind of expand on that from your experience, Dave?
Yeah, when I first got on the SWAT team, one of the things that I always said that I was going to do was no matter what amount of experience I got from the team or from all of that extra training, it was going to be my responsibility to bring it back to my agency and diffuse that out amongst patrol officers, detectives, because it's extremely valuable, right? We get so much more training, and it would be a crime to just hold that in within myself. And that was sort of my plan when I became a sergeant, was to continue that, to give all of those extra trainings, all of that experience to my crew. And essentially, on the Valley SWAT team, we really pitch decentralized leadership, where we teach every single member all of the roles and responsibilities, all the way from the newest guy all the way up to the team leader. And that allows immediate decision-making process in those critical situations. And that was what I did with my patrol crew, and I think it worked out really well. I'm incredibly proud of the patrol crews that I ran, because they were known to be those problem solvers that no matter which call they showed up to, whichever crew that they were working on, those were the people that everybody looked to make those really quick, important decisions. And that was something that I was really proud of. And I think that's one of the roles of a really good supervisor is that, yes, you can go out and you can be a leader, but you have to then take those leadership lessons that you've learned or those trainings, and you have to give them back out to your people so that they can then become that next leader in the next couple of years.
Yeah. Yeah, that's huge. I love the themes of responsibility taking and, even decentralized command, right? Like a really big Jockoism, but like his main, most famous one is like extreme ownership, right? And so
Right.
technically you could decentralize and then no one picks up the torch, but you're explaining and depicting this culture where people can, if they drop the torch or they set it down, like someone's right there, right? It doesn't even touch the ground actually, because
Right.
everyone's eager, they're able, they're competent, and they're confident in that. So that's fantastic. Brian, what does that kick up in you and some of the points that Dave and David have shared with us?
Yeah, I'm going to jump on Dave's back here and ride that a little bit as far as my philosophy, which is, and I think David said it earlier, which was the servant leadership,
Mhm.
right? My goal has always been as a sergeant to break down the barriers, to give my members, my guys and gals, the experiences, the trust, the tools necessary to succeed in whichever direction they want to go in their career, right? It is not necessarily my job to dictate where I think they should go. Hey, you need to make more DUI arrests. Hey, you need to make more traffic stops. Hey, you need to be more proactive on dope cases or whatever, because this career is a marathon, right? You can go dozens of different directions. So my goal has been, can I identify my guys' strengths and weaknesses? Can I set expectation and standards that are just a skosh out of reach and then mentor them to reach them? And then once they do, raise them even higher and continue to mentor them so that their expectations supersede what even they believe they can do, right? I believe that motivation and getting others to want to do what needs to get done is very important. And as I've learned through my career and some of my mistakes and missteps is, I'm a very brown communicator. I'm very direct. I'm very matter of fact. And early on, that's how I communicated. And over the years, I've learned like, wait a second, my job is to identify both those strengths and weaknesses, but also what communication style are my people so that
Mm.
I change and adapt to their communication styles versus expecting them because I'm the sergeant to adhere to what I'm telling them. There's a time and place for that. Critical incidences, this is what needs to be done, get it done. I'll explain later if need be. But for the most part, it's, can I communicate? Can I break down these barriers and build these officers up to be the best versions of themselves? Because the goal is to see them as leaders, right? They are leaders. They're pillars of the community. And it's real easy for these brand new officers to think that they're a low person on the totem pole and forget how vital they are in our own communities.
Yeah.
And so I want to build that.
Sometimes the hardest mission is when you have to adapt to a new role. From starting a first responder career to a new assignment to retirement, Greg Fernia is here to help. Greg is a retired special operations supervisor and a personal and professional development coach. He helps first responders and their families navigate transitions and challenges with purpose and clarity. Learn more at livingthegoodlifecoach.com. That's livingthegoodlifecoach.com. From interviews to jail calls, Ditto Transcripts delivers fast, confidential, and court-ready transcription for law enforcement agencies. Ditto is CJIS compliant and is already working with agencies all over the U.S., including the Washington State Patrol and the National Park Service Investigations Unit. Get started now at dittotranscripts.com. That's dittotranscripts.com. To hear details about all the applications of Ditto Transcripts and exactly why this is a key solution for your organization's workload issues, check out episode 232. Yeah, that was said really well. And I'm going to pivot back to David because David's role now is professional development. And you have a huge agency, but I love that they've carved out this intention of putting resource towards this because it should be everyone's responsibility as any type of leader or supervisor to put professional development into each of their people, right? Like that should be carved out in their evaluations, like the supervisor's evaluations. And I've seen many evaluations that don't really talk about that. They're almost the same type of like eval criteria as an officer, work quality and administrative tasks and stuff like that. But it's like No, it's not about you. It's about everyone else. Like, you are supposed to be this force multiplier for everyone else because they're the ones making all the contacts. They're the ones making all the arrests. They're the ones driving out and shaking hands and hugging babies and all that. You are a hybrid. And it goes into, and my mind wants to go a lot of places, but I'm going to focus back into that professional development piece because I know that's such a tenet of Chief Melchior's when he came on the show. So I love that, when I love hearing how his brain works and how open-minded he is to all these leadership concepts and continuing to develop himself. And it's clear that he's building that culture. So David, yeah, like, can you tell us a little bit more, kind of coming off of what Brian just shared, especially with your role now?
Absolutely. So both Brian and Dave hit the nail on the head in regards to this. So, Dave talked about succession planning. You have to have that built in. And, like Brian was talking about, that next generational goal achievement, get it just a little bit out of reach, but then help them get there, right? So that's coaching 101. I mean, I go
Mhm.
back to when I was an old hockey coach, when I was back up in Illinois. I did it forever and a day. And, I always told the kids on the team, hey, I hope you don't play for me next year. And you have to explain to the parents what that meant. That meant, I don't want you to quit the sport. I want you to ascend to the next league or the
Mm.
next level. So you're not playing for me. Because I was pigeonholed. I was only going to be at one level, which is fine. But it's all about that development side of things. So what we're doing with the professional development program here at DOTD Police is kind of unique because in 31 years, I've never seen an agency embrace true professional development. And to your point, Eric, when Chief Melchior jumped in, he was like, this is where I see you really excelling. It's basically the things that I've just been doing when he saw me as a frontline supervisor at LSU. Um, I always took the time to sit down and have conversations with my people. And it wasn't
Mm.
the annual evaluation and then that's it, right? I would talk to them, made sure we had at least quarterly meetings, but then I'd always follow up, pull people off to the side, see them passing through. How we doing? What's going on? But asking those questions, take a stay interview concept and ask those types of questions. You're not looking for trying to um, create this false narrative of, oh, you want to be a chief? Sure. Well, that's great, but do you have a real capacity to be a chief? Not everybody does, and not everybody wants it, right? But sitting down and having those honest conversations with our staff, and that's my goal for 26, because this is a new role for me, and trying to put together a framework of what it's going to look like. I have an idea. I have a vision of what the end product is going to be. So I'm taking the approach like in crash reconstruction. I start at the end and I'm just working my way backwards. And we'll eventually get some sort of framework put in place that's going to help me identify for each person what they want. And it's not just within the parameter and the framework of our job. It's your home life. It's your financial well-being. It's your mental health. It's your physical health. It's all encompassing. And then trying to be able to put together a roadmap for each employee, and start talking these long-term goals. I'm not a financial guy, but I've been blessed to be on this earth for almost 60 years, and I've got some life experience that I can pass along to people and help them understand. Start planning now. So you're in a position when you get to be my age, you get the benefit of doing some of the things that I did. My wife and I were semi-retired. We cruise all the time. It's a nice perk that we get. That's one of the things that we like to do, but because we stayed within our means. So passing that type of information along to the employee to help them understand it's not just the job, because there's more to it than just the job. If people are struggling in their home life, they're going through a divorce, they're going through relationship issues, whether you want to or not, that is going to be seeping in and they're going to bring it to work and it's going to affect their work product, right? So finding that balance to try and help everybody hit that happy medium across so many different spectrums is the ultimate goal of the program. We'll see how we do with it. But like I said, we're just getting started with it. I'm 6 weeks into the new role and, just dipping my toes into the water. So
Yeah, I love it. You said a lot, and I'm sure that everyone listening they're glomming onto these different things. They'll probably have to listen to this episode back and take more notes, but it's gonna kick up a lot of ideas on how they can build that out in their own department or team culture, right? Like these little nuggets. A couple of y'all have spoken on mentorship and servant leadership, and I love how it was explained, like breaking down barriers and even like knowing the context. I think it was Brian kind of saying like, knowing your audience, like adjusting how you communicate when you have the time, when it's not like in the critical incident, right? It's not like, hey, here's the order, do it. It's more like, hey, like, where can I meet you so that you can best understand it and understand where I'm coming from. And the best way to do that is with relationships. So going to what David's talking about is like, yeah, when you actually take investment and engagement with your people, when you truly care, and then you have the opportunity to show you care through time investment and focus, then they know that it's meaningful, right? They know that you understand the interplay between their performance at home and work and how those are absolutely intertwined. And so while we will still have to keep beating the drum for those that don't believe it, make it about work performance, and then that's where they care, right? They care about the dollars and cents, they care about the work product, but they absolutely are. And so I also like where several of you are talking about just bringing people up a little bit. And I hate painting this picture, but I think it'll make sense to people. But let's just say sometimes we use vernacular like, oh, this is an A officer and this is a C plus officer. And so it's not necessarily getting all your C pluses to A's, but it's getting the C plus to like a B minus. But then also I would go another layer and say, what are you evaluating them by? Because whether it's hunters or gatherers or these different kind of archetypes and personality types we've described in the job for so long, but some of your quote unquote C plus players by someone else's standards, they might be like your tried and true, like they're gonna do exactly what they're directed to do. That they'll be a pretty good quality. They just might not be like lighting stuff on fire and going off like after every little proactive contact they can. Everyone has different strengths, and that's kind of what it kicked up in me when you're explaining that, David, like trying to figure out where people want to go and how you can help them get there a little bit better.
Yeah, I mean, because that's the ultimate goal of the professional development. I've said all along, I don't want a million Dave Struwins running around the streets. That's not the goal of this. The goal is for each person to find their niche. And here's the reality of it, and I'm sure everybody here can attest to it. You know, just because you do the job this way today doesn't mean you're going to be doing it that way next year or the year after or the year after. I tell people all the time. I told them over at LSU, I said, "Look, man, so you can't do the job the way that I did it when I came on in 1994. A lot of the things we did, people go to jail for stuff like that now. You just have to evolve with the times, and you got to find what each person wants out of their life, out of their career. And that's the overarching professional development side of it. What they want, not what you want, what they want, and then helping them get there.
Yeah, well said. Dave, let's go over to you. What's on your mind?
Well, I was thinking about what David was just saying, and I think that's something that I've learned and developed over my career is you can't measure a police officer by what you think is valuable, because what I've done in my career is completely different from what somebody else might be passionate about, right? And it's not up to me to determine what you're passionate about. It's up to me to find out what it is that you're passionate about and help you cultivate success in that, right? And when I was a young cop, it was all about jumping out of Crown Vics and chasing bad guys down the street and doing that, right? And that's my journey, right? Somebody may be super passionate about being an investigator, and it's up to me to find the training and the mentorship for them to be successful in that. Maybe they want to be a traffic cop, and that's an extremely valuable role as well. I personally don't know a lot about traffic, and that's okay, right? That's not my road. But as leaders, it is our role to find what people are passionate about and help them cultivate that into a successful career that they love. And when we do that, they're going to be happier coming to work. They're going to work harder. And those metrics that maybe we thought like should be measured on jumping out of Crown Vics and chasing bad guys is now about getting those extra DUI arrests or doing an incredible job on a collision investigation or apprehending that homicide suspect through the use of technology that I just plain don't understand, right?
Mm-hmm. Shout out to Detective Yagi, who's been on before. That's exactly who pops up in our neighborhood. No, so well said. And man, I just think about engagement, right? It's like meeting people where they're at, and how do you be an asset to them in their life, in their career? And I feel like it's worth saying. I don't know when to say it, but I'll say it now so I don't forget. But I feel like there's sergeants they're like dialed in, and they're probably some of the hardest working people in the agency because they have that hybrid. They are with their team, they're leading their team, they are in the field, whatever that field looks like, whether it's the patrol field or whether that's, investigations. They are going on the call outs, right? Versus the sergeants that are also, because of how the job's designed sometimes, like they might have the most earning potential for least amount of work out there, which I'm sure that there's that archetype that exists in every region. But Brian, you've worn so many hats. I'm kind of curious, like, how do you toggle that as far as like the engagement piece, meeting people where they're at a little bit more in tune to their careers and their goals?
I was gonna jump exactly on that when David was talking about evals. I've seen evals go one of two ways. Either one, officers don't give a hoot about what's in the eval, or two, they're really stuck on what's in the eval. And for us, evals can be pretty subjective. One person we have 3 ratings: exceeds, meets, and doesn't meet standards, which I think you can argue, you can just go away from that and just have the nuts and bolts of what they're being evaluated on, because officers in this day and age want that instant gratification. Everybody believes they should be exceeding, and not everybody is exceeding. But you got to be able to articulate in that evaluation why they're not exceeding, while at the same time, nothing in that evaluation can come as a surprise, right? Officers need to read those annual evaluations like, oh yeah, we've been talking about that every week, every month, every whatever, the good and the bad, right? That way, if you're talking about it and you're addressing it, that shouldn't make the eval. It should be addressed, should be fixed, should be corrected, so on. Like I mentioned, and Dave talked about, the mentorship and getting people in the direction and the trainings and the exposure and the experience that they want in their career is fantastic. But as sergeants, we also have to recognize and be able to have those tough conversations to kind of put officers in their place a little bit, like, whoa, pump the brakes. You are at this level right now as a 1 or 2 or 3 year officer. You need to get the basics mastered before I can put you into this high speed investigations training or let you go. We do like job shadows for specialties, and we'll have young officers that want to come job shadow the plainclothes unit because they just want to jump out and go arrest bad guys.
Yeah,
I'm like, hey, you haven't written a search warrant. You haven't done a fraction of what it takes to get to this level. Let's start knocking off these pieces so then I can go talk to that specific officer supervisor and say, hey, what is this person bringing to the table? What are they asking for? What tools are you giving them to help them reach whatever this goal is? So, the mistakes in the evals are big. For us, oftentimes, like I was saying before, it can be subjective. So, I mean, I'll go back and some of my mishappenings is I was a brand new patrol corporal, and I had a brand new officer, and he was a hard charger. He was crushing it. And he was coincidentally very similar to what I was as a young officer in 2010, except for this is in 21-ish, so 22, whatever, right after kind of COVID-ish time period. I'm like, oh man, this kid is crushing it. So I'm going to rate him as exceeds, even though he's got not even a year on. And my old salty sergeant is like, whoa, why is this person exceeding? The validation, what you're writing down doesn't match your emotions. I'm like, oh yeah, that's a good point. Let me go back and either crunch the numbers. Hey, this person's averaging X number of arrests compared to his peers. This person's filed X number of felony investigations compared to his peers. Whatever he's doing, how am I validating that overall rating so I can send it back and speak on that officer's successes, or vice versa? You're right. Yeah, this dude he's great. He's crushing it, but there's more to policing than just smashing misdemeanor arrest warrants, right? Those are, somebody else already did that investigation. Somebody else already filed that case. You happen to have a good sense of hunting down warrants, but there's no investigation in that really. Somebody else has already identified the case, identified the suspect, written the paper, filed the case, and now it's out to warrant, and you just happen to have caught this person, right? So yes, I'm happy you're making the arrest, but again, there's more depth to it. Let me build this depth. Let me mentor them.
Yeah.
If that makes.
Yeah. And there's a balance and a tension there. It's like, there are some people that might be working street sources to figure out where that warrant subject is, right? Or it's just like, hey, I'm just fishing, I'm just like stopping every little violation. But what kicks up in me is like the balance between having people be decently well-rounded, right? So you as a supervisor with a critical objective eye are trying to help people flesh out their career. But then going back to like where you're all discussing their goals, right? What is the career pathway? What are the official, maybe like that's what David's working on in a department like his, the official metrics that you should hit, or the unofficial ones, like Brian's saying, hey, like, I'm not saying we're so special you can't shadow us, but this will make so much more sense to you. It'll be so much more relevant to you and to us if you do some of these more basic things and show, one, your commitment, but two, develop the acumen that, you know, you can hop in and be more value, right? Like we might be able to put you to work or something, or like literally what we explained to you is going to make so much more sense for your betterment. So kind of peeling back from both directions, being open to that. David, I saw you taking some notes.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go.
So I want to go back to what Brian was talking about. I got a question for you, Brian, in regards to your evaluation concept. What you use with that art charger, right? Do you think that that's very similar to how you go through and evaluate in the field training program? You think someone's really killing it, but when you really break down and look at the metrics and the numbers, does that score that you're giving them for that day or for that period or that phase, does it really meet what we're looking for to justify the reward of the higher score, right? And it's okay to be in the beginning phases. It's okay to fail. You're supposed to fail. You're supposed to make the mistakes, right? And it's okay to not have the big numbers. But to your point, are they really their numbers? And in that situation, what you were talking about, it's really not their number. They just happen to catch the guy with the active warrant. Someone else did all the legwork. They did all the work, and you just happen to be the guy that scooped them up. So, hey, and if you're good at hunting down and you want to go down and knock out warrants, and you want to, grab a stack of warrants and go out and do it. I had guys that I worked with up in Illinois that did it all the time. Go crazy, man. But it's that delicate balance of understanding the value of what it is that you're bringing to the table. And it was a critique that I was given very early on in my career. Like, you're very good at one thing. You're fantastic at DUIs. Doesn't make you a good cop. And that was a real gut punch. It was a real eye opener to go, wow, here I am thinking I'm killing it. Well, I am, but on only one aspect of the job. And it was that heart-to-heart conversation with one of my upper administrators back in Illinois that he kind of said, look, if you want to do what you want to do, you got to broaden your horizons. You can't just be so siloed and pigeonholed into one thing. And like Dave was talking about in regards to your planning side of things. If that's what I wanted to do from a career development perspective, then like Dave says, I need to have a supervisor that's willing to say, look, man, that's great. But if you want to roadmap this out, you have to complete A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, and you're only doing A. So diversify your efforts, do a little bit better job with it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And there's a lot that we could probably do a whole episode or so on just evals from a first line perspective, because like even going back when evals, some guys don't give a hoot, and it's like, well, there's probably a lot of reasons contributing to that, right? It might be the individual officer, but it might be how we treat evals. Are people pulling the punches, good and bad? Or are they just mailing it in, good or bad? Like, so are we really putting that detail in? And a lot of times I anecdotally see, I've had conversations with other first lines or other supervisors, that a lot of people that were field trainers write really good evals because they would write an eval every single day. And so when you have a good field trainer or, patrol trainer, PTO, FTO, you would have them literally outline like all their articulation. And to the points made earlier, it was not a surprise to the recruit or student officer. Like, they knew they had the after action after every traffic stop, after every call, after every whatever contact. So they knew what they were getting. They knew that they were getting, whatever rating loosely, right, at the end of the day. So it wasn't like a gut punch. Hey, see you tomorrow. Come back for more. But they are learning, right? And so if you can instill that and adapt that in the way that makes sense for your eval, like if you think evals don't matter, well, start making them matter by how you do them. And then it's going to make a difference. And someone's got to be first, right? I can think of, not to toot my horn, but I felt like me and a couple others, when we were newer, younger sergeants, we were the really unpopular ones because we were identifying some problems, but no one had done like a deficiency for a long time, like not in our circles, right? So it became like all the talk of like, oh, this sergeant gave me a 2 and this sergeant gave me a 2. But they were like, we were kind of going easy on them. But then it became a point where other people were using the eval to the purpose it was supposed to be, which is documenting really good stuff and really not good stuff. And you can't just ignore it, or it's not working. But that is probably another conversation altogether. There is a bit that I want to make sure we hit on, and that was touched on a little bit with you guys, talking about adjusting your leadership mentality, adjusting the course, because the most successful police officers and leaders are adaptable, right? The job requires it. David spoke to that with the generations and coming up through different decades. Brian talked about the communications, and Dave with context. So I kind of want to open it up for what you guys have recognized, either personally or just with how you look at the job, to invite others to think about how you can ensure that you're being adaptable and flexible and able to evolve your perspective to evolve with the emergent needs and challenges of the role. All right, that was part 1 of this 2-part interview. Make sure to tune in next time to hear the rest of the tips and insight from our conversation. Thank you for tuning into another episode of Blue Grit Radio. As always, support this community by subscribing, giving us a 5-star review, and following, liking, and sharing posts on Blue Grit Wellness on Instagram. You can reach me there or email me at bluegritwellness@gmail.com. Be well and stay gritty.